The United Kingdom has long been celebrated as a global powerhouse, a land of opportunities, rich history, and cultural influence. From its world-renowned universities to the iconic cityscapes of London, the UK has attracted dreamers, entrepreneurs, and professionals for decades. But in recent years, a troubling trend has emerged. More and more people are choosing to leave the UK. What happened? How did the land of Shakespeare, the Beatles, and world-class universities become a place so many want to leave?
Britain completed its withdrawal from the European Union, and it's still struggling with the fallout. Promised economic gains have failed to materialize. Britain has missed out on much of the recovery in global trade since the pandemic, and the loss of EU workers has worsened labor shortages in healthcare, hospitality, and agriculture.
Let's first look at London, the center of the United Kingdom and one of the richest cities in the world. With an economy surpassing over $500 million, if London were a nation, it would be the 26th richest economy in the world, only behind countries like Norway. It serves particularly good high-value services in finance, along with some of the highest salaries in Europe. But with all the towers and private estates comes a very different picture. As per the reports of the London councils in 2023, the number of homeless people in the city was 1 in 50, which is approximately 3 times more than it was 10 years ago. This gives the UK the honor of being the developed nation with the highest level of homelessness. Meanwhile, real wages, what people actually take home for accounting for inflation, have stagnated for over 15 years. This means that while costs for essentials like housing have soared, people's earnings have remained stuck at 2008 levels. The financial strain is palpable, especially for young professionals who find themselves unable to save or invest in their futures. It's no wonder that skilled workers, particularly younger generations, are leaving the UK. A junior professional in New York can earn more than double they'd make in London, with the cost of living only about 1/3 higher. The appeal of better wages, coupled with more affordable housing, is hard to ignore. One sector hit particularly hard by this brain drain is the National Health Service. Pay isn't great, and there's too much pressure, making many nurses and doctors quit. It's surprising to see so many skilled workers abandon the UK while immigration continues to rise with students coming in to study from across the globe. However, the research indicates that those abandoning the UK are more skilled and competent than those who are trying to move in. This imbalance doesn't help the economy at all. The continuous decline in living standards is one of the main reasons for abandoning the country for many individuals. If you remove London's contributions, the UK's economic performance dips below that of Mississippi, the poorest state in the United States. The situation of inequality and the divide between regions is rather surprising. In 2008, the average UK household was just 8% worse off than its counterparts in Northwestern Europe. By 2022, that gap had widened to 20%. On current trends, countries like Slovenia and Poland are set to surpass the UK in household income within a decade. While the UK's top earners still enjoy some of the highest living standards globally, the poorest 5% lag significantly behind their European peers, with their living conditions now 20% worse than those in Slovenia.
The houses going up on the edge of Crewe are not enough to keep pace with demand here. 800 more have been approved on land nearby after a fight over things like how many would be affordable housing. It shows, councillors say, when it comes to planning, there is no quick fix.
The most significant challenge, perhaps, is the housing crisis. There are a lot of UK policies that are limiting the number of places built in order to balance the increase in population to make the necessary housing space. Restrictive planning laws, limited government funding for public housing, and a focus on other economic areas have all contributed to this shortfall. Policies like the Right to Buy scheme, introduced in the late 1970s, allowed tenants in public housing to purchase their homes at a discount. While this enabled many to become homeowners, it also significantly reduced the stock of social housing. In the past few decades, since homes are not being replaced at the same rate the population grew, the social housing sector in the UK declined by around 25% since the 1970s. The result? Rent increased, overcrowding, and an increase in homelessness never seen before. In England alone, the number of households living in temporary accommodation has more than doubled since 2010, reaching over 112,000 in 2023. Housing conditions during this time are terrible, with most of the properties suffering from more or less the same ailments like mold and pest infestations. For families, especially those with children, the psychological and economic costs of such instability are catastrophic and beyond estimation. The housing crisis has made an even bigger divide in terms of generations. Older generations who took advantage of the lower housing costs are now owners of several homes and apartments. On the other hand, younger generations are having a harder time just buying one home, and this has created a heightened degree of anger and contributed to the widening gap in wealth. For those that do manage to purchase a house, there's a significant debt to pay, and life becomes more of a rat race. There is no doubt as to why most British youths are searching for opportunities outside of the UK. If you're liking the video so far, make sure to subscribe to the channel. The National Health Service was once an illustration of British pride, but now it's seen as Britain's suffering, loss, and pity story. The NHS was established in 1948 with the goal of providing universal access to free healthcare services at the point of access. But in this particular context, as the population of the UK aged and became more ethnically heterogeneous, the pressure on the system reached a breaking point. Waiting lists have skyrocketed, with over 7.4 million people waiting for consultant treatment as of 2023. Countries in developed regions are relatively more successful in tackling terminal diseases like cancer when compared to the UK. Despite increased funding and staffing levels, the NHS is buckling under the weight of rising costs and inefficiencies. A recurring theme in the UK's decline is underinvestment in housing, healthcare, and infrastructure. The dire lack of investment in housing, healthcare, and other relevant sectors affects the growth and development of the economy. One notable example would be the High Speed 2, which is part of the bigger plan in improving transportation between northern and southern England. Sadly, due to the escalating expenses and many delays, the project was called off in the year of 2023. This underinvestment extends to the private sector as well. Since 2005, UK companies have invested 20% less than their counterparts in the US, France, and Germany. This lack of investment has stifled innovation and productivity, leaving the UK lagging behind its peers. No assessment of how the UK is today would be complete without debating Brexit, although it's not accurate to suggest that it's the lone reason for the national challenges. However, it's safe to say that abandoning the EU has definitely aggravated the situation. Trade with the EU, the UK's largest trading partner, has declined, and businesses face increased bureaucracy and costs. The departure from the European Union also damaged the UK's earlier reputation as an open and favorable environment for talented professionals and investors. When added to the existing problems of affordable housing, access to healthcare, and low-wage growth, it's easy to see why so many Britons are starting to wonder where their country is headed. For many, the 1990s and the early 2000s were a period of positives for the UK. The economy was growing, the cultural influence of Britpop and Cool Britannia was at its height, and there was a feeling of positivity among the people. However, the policies of that era, such as privatization and the switch to a service-oriented economy, ended up affecting the nation for decades. Though such policies resulted in immediate ramifications for a larger portion of the population, they unfortunately came at a cost for the generation in the future. The cutbacks of the UK in the last decade has resulted in adverse effects to the British people. The recovery from these decisions would be long and critical. What do you think about this? Let us know in the comments section below, and make sure to like the video. Thanks for watching.